brother, and we've been together for 2 years, and I can tell you that if I care about him as much as I profess to, and if all of us care about the young people that we look after, take care of, and are entrusted with as much as we say we do, when we see things happening like we are seeing every day with black males in particular, under attack, under assault, essentially becoming an endangered species, we have an obligation to say something. It doesn't matter what color you are, it doesn't matter what gender you are, it doesn't matter how old you are. We have young people that we are saying we're responsible for, and there is a real and present danger, unfortunately, in this society. And we owe it to them to say something, to have the conversation. Now,
it's not really a thing of the police and, because it crosses all barriers. I mean, it's so much that goes on. And with me, like I said, it's more of a thing as we as blacks on blacks, rather than saying, it's the police. Even though the other day my son was getting off the bus coming from the Y, and because of all the crime that has been going on in the West End, they ran up on him and snatched his backpack off of him because they thought he had a weapon. And he was just coming from the Y. But I look at that as them, because of where we live and them trying to do their job. But I also thank God that I've instilled certain values in my son and told him, if they, give it to him. Don't run, don't, talk back, just give it to him. So I'm grateful for the fact that I've had these conversations with my boys over the years.
My husband and I made my 16-year-old son watch the outcome of the lack of indictment for Darren Wilson in regard to the Michael Brown shooting. And we had that conversation. And what I learned in that conversation is that he sees things very, very, very differently than we do. In fact, he was offended that we were making him have that conversation and talking about it, and told us that we were the ones who were racist and prejudiced because we kept bringing it up. And so it is vitally important for us to have this conversation so that we can help them gain the perspective that as parents we want them to have, but also listen to hear what they're seeing and what they live and what they experience, because their experience is very, very different than ours. As a whole, we do not live in a post-racial society, as evident by the need for this conversation and the things that continue to happen over and over and over again. As recently as the shooting in Charleston at Emmanuel and me. And with the access that they have to information now, when I was growing up, if it didn't come on the news, or you didn't see it on the radio, or you didn't read it in the newspaper, or your parents didn't tell you, you didn't hear about it. Now, our children tell us things that are happening, maybe even before we hear it. Because if it goes on Twitter, if it goes on Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook, they see it before we even get the opportunity to filter it for them. And so in order for them to have the perspective that you as parents, how many parents do we have in the room? So in order for us as parents to impart the perspective that we want our children to have about this situation, we have to have the conversation.
the implication if you don't have these conversations is you lose credibility. You lose credibility with the young people that you are responsible for. If you think things are happening and they're not talking about it with each other, then you're wrong. And I want to give you a crystal clear example, a conversation that I had with my little on the subject of workplace drug testing. Little did he know, I used to work for a company that did workplace drug testing. He's now sitting there telling me all the things you can do to get past the workplace drug test. And I asked him, where did you get this information? It comes from the other friends. If you hear it from one person, it's interesting. If you hear it from 2 people, it's a trend. If you hear it from 3 people, it's a fact. And then they start to share it. And now he's telling me, well, all you have to do is drink cranberry juice. I know better. I know better. So I had that conversation with him. So if you don't have it with them, you lose credibility. And for the subject we're talking about tonight, Black Lives Matter and what's happening to young black males in this society, if you think they don't know it, if you think they're not seeing it, if you think they haven't experienced it and they're not talking about it with each other, then you're wrong. So for you to stay relevant, you have to engage in that conversation. Otherwise, you're just a ride to the amusement park.